I'm really inspired by nature and I'm still kind of developing my own style. It's a little bit hard with murals because I paint for a lot of clients and they usually have an idea of what they want. So they're like, oh, our brand, our aesthetic is this. Yay! Hi, I'm Brinley. I'm a muralist. I've been doing this for 5 years and I paint all over DFW.
Retro.
So how I got into that was during COVID, actually. So I was working a full-time job and then got furloughed from that. And in my downtime, I decided to go outside and do chalk in my driveway, some giant like Disney murals and stuff on my driveway. Neighbors walked by and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So I decided to promote it in my neighborhood Facebook. Eventually, I was booked every single day with chalk art jobs, just drawing Spider-Man on their driveway for their kid's birthday. And eventually, like, I got in local papers, news, did a little segment on me, which was really, really cool. And then eventually people were like, oh, can you paint? Can you do murals too? And I was like, yeah. I'd never done a mural before, but you just say yes and figure it out later, right? So luckily there was a lot of people doing it already on Instagram, so I got to, get some tips online, but eventually you just kind of learn on the job. That's kind of how I got started, and one thing led to another. I mean, how I get more jobs is referrals. That's probably my biggest, and then social media, obviously. So once I do one mural, put it all over social media, then people find you and want to hire you for more things. I'm really inspired by nature and I'm still kind of developing my own style. It's a little bit hard with murals because I paint for a lot of clients and they usually have an idea of what they want. So they're like, oh, our brand, our aesthetic is this, can you keep within this, But I'm starting to kind of develop the styles that I like to do or what I think is really cool. I'm also really inspired by this is gonna get kind of deep, but just the balance between order and chaos. This year I'm exploring this within myself. So just the balance of okay, this part of the art is kind of neat and put together and whatever, and then there's another part of it that's kind of chaotic and kind of slap some paint on there. And I feel like those are two things that are warring inside of myself too. Like a part of me that's kind of put together, kind of presentable, and then there's another side of me, the chaos part, that just totally just comes out. And it's ooh, where did that come from? But yeah, I don't know.
Purchase your tracks.
My journey. Honestly, it's been really positive. The community down here is really, really awesome, especially where I'm from. I'm from Flower Mound, Lantana area. Everyone was so supportive. And I mean, you get those here and there who are like, what do you do? You're an artist? Is that your full-time job? What? So it's a lot of education, which is totally fine, and eventually you get people who are like, ew, you suck. It's okay, whatever. Just, you kind of have to have thick skin with that type of stuff. So, but overall, honestly, it's been positive. People are so fascinated with the process. They see me painting and they're like, oh my goodness, what is this? They want to ask questions. They're very curious. And so I'm so happy to stop and answer their questions or I do have favorites. This is so hard because I like a little bit of everything. I painted for Chicken and Pickle, which is they're their locations are spreading all over the place. So, but I did all of them in their location in Grapevine. I did all of theirs and they allowed me a little bit of creative freedom. I pitched this and I can't believe they said yes, but it's an alien spaceship with a little pickle guy inside, and then he has like a cowboy hat and a mustache. And so I like it when clients like let me get weird like that. There's also this mural I did for a boa shop in Highland Village. It's not like this huge mural or anything, but it's like this style that I was really obsessed with. Like they wanted something that's more aesthetic, more muted, that told about the different kind of teas that they did. So I really wanted to paint tea plants. And I also added some like little brush strokes, and it was really aesthetic. Oh my goodness, there are so many. And then I painted on the side of this apartment building in Dallas too, which was super cool because it was the biggest wall I've ever painted. I was on like a 4-story scaffold. I think the biggest misconception about murals is that it's just art or it's just like a cool looking thing. But it really is so much more than that. Like a lot of businesses reach out and they're like, they probably just want something that looks cool in their space. And so like, yes, it's gonna look cool, but it's also like a form of advertising, a form of marketing. It's gonna tell the story of your brand. It's gonna create a sense of community. It becomes something so eye-catching for your business or your building or whatever. So when people Google and they see, oh, like you're that business with that cool cactus mural, like, oh, you're that, I think it's such an underrated use of advertising and marketing for a business. I don't think they realize how much the atmosphere really like gets people coming back. If it's just white walls and it's bare, like, yeah, you can have good coffee, that's cool, but people they want to come there to feel something, to have the vibes, like everything like that. And murals are a great way to do that. Step one, when it comes to painting a mural, I have to figure out the scope of the project, dimensions, the wall texture, if I'll need a lift, accessibility, all the things, and then I can start planning. Step two, I design my mural on my iPad. I use the app called Procreate, and it allows me to draw over my wall and create my design. Step three, we have to get the design onto the wall. In order to get this onto the wall, there's a few ways that you can do that. One is a projector. Two is something called a doodle grid, which I use here. And three is just freehanding. So I can kind of dive into all three of those. Projecting, literally go out when it's night, put your image into your projector and trace everything in chalk or something that can be easily erasable. The doodle grid though, basically you draw a bunch of random chalk lines all over the wall. So I've got like my butterfly, I think I drew the entire alphabet on here in chalk. And then what I like to do is go on my iPad, I'll take a picture of the wall. So before I even had any of the design on it, so it had all these chalk lines all over it, take a picture and then go into my program and put my design on top of it to change the opacity of the design so you can see the chalk lines through the design. So I'm like, okay, here's where the N is. I know that the flower is gonna end where this little line from the N ends, and I'll draw that. And I'm like, okay, this line stops at the butterfly, so then I'll trace that out. So then that's how I got this up on the wall, and that's nice because you can do that with any size wall. So sometimes projectors are limited, like you're in a narrow hallway or your building is 3 stories high. Doodle grid method. Okay, best thing ever. And then when it comes to designs that are just super irregular, I don't have to do a lot of measuring or anything like that. Sometimes I'll just freehand it. So I'll just go through and I'm like, take a step back, make sure it looks good. As long as it's pretty close, it's good. Step 4, you get to paint it. So normally I'll start with, depending on the design, a lot of times you'll have like a base layer. So for example, with this flower, there's gonna be a lot of like details on top of it. And so what I just went ahead and did is just did a base layer of white. I'll probably have to go over that a few more times. And then I just kind of layer it based on how the design is. I knew that this blue was going to go behind the flowers, so I painted that first. That way the flower could go on top of it, just like in the design. Same thing with everything. So did this yellow stripe first, then I painted this, then I painted these little shapes, then this, then the flowers. So it kind of just goes from back to front. And that's how you want to paint your mural. I'm going to add a bunch of different details that just, there's gonna be a lot of layering and stuff. So I'm gonna be adding like different shadows and details, highlights, and you just build up the painting almost like a canvas, like it's a giant canvas, you know? So if you can paint small, you can paint big. Most of the time you don't need a sealer because hopefully you're getting high quality paint. That's what I use. But when you're working for certain, like a lot of cities or other businesses, they're really worried about graffiti. So sometimes they'll pay extra for a graffiti coat, which is something that I would hire out for professionals to spray on because I don't know how to do that. But that is an option that I always give my client. Okay, so here's the hot topic with sealers. What happens is a lot of times over a year or like a few years, the sealer gets really sticky and tacky and it attracts dirt, which makes your mural look really dull over time. If something happens to it, you can't just paint over the sealer. You have to hire someone to sandblast the sealer off, which is like thousands of dollars. And it's just going to be cheaper for you to hire the same artist to like touch up the place or touch up the graffiti, honestly. So that's why I'm very passionate about like not. Every mural is a learning experience and I love to watch the vision come together. My name is Brinley and you can follow me at Brinley Ash Designs on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. Thanks for watching When Creators Connect in Their Element. I'd love to see behind the scenes of creatives in their element. Subscribe to Vision 127 Media. There you go. Yay!